All right, welcome everyone. This is a Viper Professional Training and Sport webinar. Today's date is August 26, 2019. This is a Monday night webinar, and the title of tonight's webinar is 3 trade setups you can use every day. And as everyone knows that's been to our webinars or our live trading room, everything that we say and do at Viper Trading Systems is for educational purposes only. Futures trading, forex trading, any kind of financial instruments trading involves risk, therefore there's always risk of loss. You should only trade discretionary capital, and that is money that you can afford to lose. Nothing said in this webinar, other webinars, including the live trading room, should never be construed as trading or investment advice. And as always, everyone does trade at their own sole discretion. Yeah, Mindy, everything I've been seeing too, it's hard to say if it's going to happen or not. Mindy said she saw an article on CNBC saying that it looks like the market could drop 33%. That everything is lined up just like in 2008. Yeah, and your wife, Alex says, my wife says Gabriel is practicing on his trumpet right now. That's a possibility. We're in crazy times. There's no question about it. But I've heard that also that we are set up for a major drop. But we'll see. We'll see. The one thing about us at Viper Trading Systems, now granted, if it just drops like a stone and everybody loses their 401ks and, jobs go and everything else, there's no telling. But surely we won't see anything like that for a while. All right. Now, real quick, does everybody look at your chart in the Lightning 3 mode? Because I think this is really important to look at the Lightning 3 mode on your chart because, 4-range bars are really just quick. And if you look at these charts like this, you're going to be able to see where these things are going to change. To give an example, when I look at something like this, 46, 49, 53, I kind of look at this like, well, you know what? You could kind of think that they shouldn't break probably the lowest one, like right there, to give an example. And if they did, if this was to decide to go short, I would want it to break, pull back and kiss, just like we teach, and then to roll over. Okay? Because other than that, it's heading up, right? Exactly. So if you look at this chart right here, doesn't it look like this is really, kind of heading up right now? But what if they just broke this area, like a little bit and then came back and instead of kissing it, just went straight through it? Could you draw like a trend line across your chart? Something like that right there. This is one of my favorite trades. Now, there's actually more than 3 trade setups you can use every day, but I'm going to try to make it as, simple as can be because mid-band trades, extremely important, but remember the old rule of thumb, you want it to be stair-stepping that mid-band. You don't want a flat-lined mid-band and take mid-band trades, unless you're looking possibly for a trend change. But as long as that mid-band is stair-stepping up, you can look for those mid-band type trades. And also when it's stair-stepping up, you can look for the minimum criteria. But when it's flatlining, you're going to want to look for phantom trades. Okay? All right, so everybody diagnose their chart like this though, and just look at the, as it's heading up and it's heading up, it's heading up. Well, this is about the time that I got up this morning. And I showed this on Linda's account, as a matter of fact, because I didn't go short. I wasn't up here at 4:30 in the morning, but I saw this happening when I got up, like this. And I thought, well, you know what? It's trying to head down, but it's still got support here. And I would expect it to break that support, kiss it, and roll, or I wouldn't be looking for a short trade, something like that, to give an example. And that's what you really want to train yourself to see is these really good support and resistance type rollovers. Because you'll find that everything that we've developed at Viper Trading Systems is going to show you just about where that trade is. All you got to do is be, smart and realize there are certain rules in effect. And you want to be real careful when they're flatlining. And remember, just like I said this morning, in the trading room, you don't want to take anything but phantom trades if you get that certain background. Okay, you don't really want to take those mid-band trades because they could go up a few ticks and then right back in your face and then straight back down. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to an actual chart and we'll see what's going on here. Okay, but does everybody see this though? Would you diagnose your chart just like I did? You know, thinking that, well, this is stair stepping up. You know, could you think that, well, you know what, this could very possibly break that trend line. Now we know we've got this. See, at the time, we only had this. Okay, but always be able to draw your lightning 2, and you'll be able to draw these trend lines on these charts. Shibi, on your question, it's recorded and everything, you know, so you'll be able to hear it. There's not a lot that's been said so far. Basically, what I was saying, though, is that if you'll use Lightning 3, and Lightning 3 is the one that has the numbers on it, that this will keep you on the right side of the trade. Now, it doesn't mean just because it breaks Lightning 3, you know, you're going to short it, because this one broke Lightning 3 this morning, went down to about 41, if I remember right, maybe even 42. And what did it do after that? It bounced. Okay, so you've got to realize that there's trends on your chart, and until they break, they're not really going the other direction yet. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the actual chart and see what's going on. I know Charles was going to do like a trade recap today, and by the way, he finally got his GoToWebinar fixed. So I don't think he'll have to be doing what he's been doing. It was something to do with them because he worked with them on the phone and they got it fixed. So he's in good shape. For some reason, his recorder was dumping out and his sound was globby and all that kind of stuff, but they got it all fixed. So it wasn't his equipment. And by the way, it's not that he doesn't want to buy equipment. He said he even bought a computer a few months ago and took it back because he hates Windows 10. And, you know, I got used to Windows 10 because unfortunately, you can't really buy computers now without Windows 10, hardly. You know, and I've gotten used to it. It's good. Okay. Now, does everybody see this though? You have a low, a high, higher low, higher high, higher low, barely higher high, higher low, higher high. So this is your support level right under here. Anytime you've got just a few ticks like this, I always pick the lower one on a long and vice versa on a short. Okay, because for instance, just like I was showing on that chart just a minute ago, if this was going to head down, it should break this support and it should come back and kiss it as resistance. And if it doesn't, you're not really looking as much for shorts. Now, could you short this mid-band trade? Yes, except this is a yellow mid-band, so I don't usually short that one. If this would have been a red mid-band or magenta, would you short it? Truthfully, I probably still wouldn't unless I got a really good reason to, because look at that flat line. It's just flatlining. So it's trying to decide what it's going to do. So let's talk about those favorite trades that I like. One of my favorite trades is a good trend line break. Okay. For instance, if you were to draw a trend line across right there, if that was to break that, more than likely it's heading up, not down. Okay. And remember, we're not looking for shorts yet because it hasn't done this. I'll even change these to red so you'll see that, let's see, let's do a deeper red so it'll show up at least here. Yeah, you can see that. And then we'll do this one too. Because what you want, if this is going to change directions, you want it to do something like this. And then, of course, roll over from, you know, that resistance area right there. And that would be a good short, okay, if it does that. All right. But if it doesn't do that, then it's still holding support. And you can actually take this trade, you know, and keep in mind that right now, this is a big trend line. This may set up another trend line, like a high, a low, a lower high, a little bit lower low, and you might be able to draw a different trend line. Okay. Let's see a little to the left. It looks like that could be a trend line up. Well, basically, if you were to draw your trend line pretty much under here, it has broken it a little bit. I saw that too. See where it's broken it right through there? Okay. But, this could be just a setup for a good phantom trade. And it happened to be one, but it didn't work out as far as, any money. Okay. But this is what you want to look for. Draw on your charts, and you'll be amazed at how good you can get in some of these trades. Okay. Let's just fast forward this a little bit, and we'll put Object Trader on it, and I'll show it to you. All right, we'll fast forward this just a little bit, just so you can see what happens in real time. We don't even necessarily have to click the button because it doesn't matter. It's seeing the trade that's important. Just let it play around a little bit. Like I say, I don't like that mid-band particularly. Does it mean it won't work? Well, it probably did work, but I didn't care because I don't usually short a yellow mid-band like that. Let's let it do its thing for a minute. And it turns out that's a decent mid-band trade, and that's fine, except I don't like a short on a long mid-band. It gets you biased where you don't take the trade at the proper spots, what it does. See, it's still hugging that trend line so far. And you wouldn't consider this a phantom long because of the pinkish color? Well, it was a phantom long right here, as this was happening right here at line 1. You could have taken that phantom trade, but I would have put a tight stop on it. Anytime I take a phantom trade, I put a pretty tight stop on it. You can put it at line 0 at first, remember? Okay, so you're in it on that bar close. You get up a little bit, you got your trade in, you got a little scalp maybe, put your stop just right here where this is, and it probably wouldn't cost you hardly anything, and you'd be out of the trade on at least that bar right there. So you can do that. Now that is a legitimate phantom trade. There's not a question about that. It had changed. Well, let's see. It wasn't the first one though, was it? See, because this is a phantom right here. At the time, anyway, it did change the red background just like that one did here. So that's definitely a legitimate phantom trade. Now, I wasn't up when that happened. Do you remember I showed you that one that Linda took? Okay, now here's one area that I think does fool a lot of people because our indicators are able to change fairly quickly. That's so that we can all get these great trades and everything. But like I said, to me, until this broke, this support here, and came back and kissed it and rolled on the left side of my screen here, that is what I look at. Okay, on the right side, you're just getting, your retracements, maybe down to support and you bounce. Okay, but this is the left side of the screen, and that's important. Now, could this have been a good mid-band trade? Yes, if you would have boxed it in, and you could have probably got something. Okay. Now, keep in mind, if they're not the color of the mid-band that we like, you want to be careful, because if you box this in and it goes your way, that's fine. Okay. All right. Now, watch what happened, because I traded this morning, and I actually showed that. Linda wouldn't have probably taken this particular trade just from her training, simply because the background's red and everything. But does everybody see where that just barely broke support right there? Could a person even say, you know what, if it breaks that right there, could you go long? Well, that's resistance right there, so you could, but we do have a trend line drawn on here, so you could turn that into an actual trade on Object Trader. And the way to do that, let me just get rid of everything, show you how to do it. You put it on wedge, you draw the wedge like so. Just like that. Now, I don't normally like to do a wedge until you get it to actually break it and then pull back some and then be able to box it. But you can take this trade right here if you want to. Keeping in mind, though, if you did break this, you'd have to put your stop under here. Would make you think that it would kiss there and go short. Well, looking to the left to trade the right, it had to really break this. That was your support level right there. And see, it just barely did. So to me, I still consider that a long trend, even though our background has changed and everything, because it did go deep enough to change it all. Okay. But keep in mind that you also want to look at these lightning 3, because until it breaks lightning 3 on the left, it's not heading down. Okay. And this turned out, matter of fact, remember what Linda's price was? She actually got 55 on that trade. How'd she do that? Well, it went above resistance. Was that a risky trade? Well, actually, she only did one, so I'm going to sell one of these. We'll just get rid of one. And this actually turned out to go up and kiss and do a little roll. Okay. She had her stop under here, like I think 15 or 16 ticks, if I remember right. And she let it just do its thing. Now I'll show you what it actually did. Now where I would recommend getting this trade, see how this went up and kissed mid-band and it tried to roll? See what it did? But then what it did is it kissed support. And that made me think, well, it's probably going to go ahead and head up. So I have my line drawn under here, and you can clearly look and see that they tested this twice. So more than likely they were going to check right here. Because if you look to the left to trade the right, you'll see they'll check this one, and then a lot of times they'll check the one right above it. And watch how they do that. I teach this all the time in that room. So she felt a tad of heat when it rolled over because it was up like $100, but she was only in one contract, and that turned out that went on up from there. So see, it only tested this line here and not the others, so it was okay. Didn't cost her anything at all. Now, what she did is she ended up getting some phone calls and stuff. I would highly recommend going ahead and getting out of this trade if it makes a thrust and any kind of a pullback, and then get back in it. But because you remember my rule of thumb is I don't like to go all the way back to mid-band like this. And this is what happens a lot. See how that went back to mid-band? And it even, if I remember right, it even kissed it, see, like an ABC. So see, that went from being a $400 trade back to 200, back to 150, 200, and then took off. So the one thing you need to realize when you're trading, you got to make that decision where you want to take it off the table. You know, for instance, if you had a trend line drawn on the chart, like under these lows, you would have probably taken that trade off right through there. See where that would have taken it off at line 6. Okay. But it did have support right here. See this little area right here where, you know what they do? They thrust up and they pull back and check, and that's what it did. So you can hold that through that. You know, Charles does that a lot. I don't do it as often as Charles does, because as a rule, I try to get in, you know, like even 3 or 4 and then take really some profit. Because a trade like this at 55, where Linda got it, all the way up to here at 90, that could have been a one and done with 3 contracts for sure. And even breaking that trend line. Everybody see that? Okay. Now, with a flat green mid-band, Mindy, keep in mind that your best trade is going to be where it's stair-stepping, okay? But you can still box in at mid-band. What you want to be careful of, though, is when you get in these flat mid-bands, see, like right here, for instance, if you boxed it, it never got you in until you got to a phantom to begin with. And then that trade didn't even work out. Now, like I say, I wouldn't have taken that short, and we did take that trade long, because I showed it this morning. We got in at 54.55, which was exactly there, and we got out at line 6. Okay. And remember this trade, I called this in the room this morning. As a matter of fact, well, actually, we had another one that set up in the room because this was 7:30. The room wasn't open at this time. Now, getting back to my favorite trade setups, though, if you get a thrust and a pullback, okay, this is pretty much a thrust and about a 50% retracement to that mid-band. It's really close anyway. Look at your fibs and you'll see it. See there, right on the money of 50%. Okay, so that's one of the reasons that you want to watch these mid bands for really good trades, because when they thrust from a phantom low to a phantom high, that's a 50% pullback, and that's a pretty good pullback that you'll see them bounce a lot. Now, sometimes they'll actually do a thrust, a little lower high, and then go to 61 and then bounce, and you can box those in. Okay, but what you want to get in the habit of doing, though, is wait for the thrust, or, you know, a little break like this. This was a little bit of a gutsy trade today, but felt very little heat on it. But to me, it wasn't gutsy in the fact that all it did was check support. If you looked at this on a 12 range chart, I'll bet you that's a wick. You know, where on a 4 range bar, it's a closed bar. But wouldn't you think that on a 12 range chart, that's probably a wick right there? We can even check it real quick. Let's just check that and see if we got a wick on that. We'll put a 12 range on this real quick and not do the indicators, just the 12 range, just so I can see it. See there? That's about an 8-tick wick. So was this actually, for all intents and purposes, was it a short at all? And the answer is no. I diagnosed it perfectly. See there where the swing is? And all they did is wicked it. Okay. To box it at mid-band, Mindy, you can actually do this. You can simply take a mid-band trade and then don't let it go against you. You know, Charles and I do that all the time because, again, you know, when this thrusts from a, you know, phantom low to a phantom high, that's going to be a nice retracement. So a mid-band trade like that is really, really good. So if you bought it at, and not only that, throw your fibs on there at the time too, because that's what I did when Linda stepped away and she was taking phone calls and everything, and she hadn't moved her stop as of yet. We didn't turn it on the, you know, where it was doing the trim because it was still magenta. So we were just watching the trade. And this happened fairly quickly, you know, when they broke it down a little bit. And I thought, well, doggone it, they're taking some of her profit back. But I looked at the fibs real quick and I saw that that was 50%. So I started to add one for her, but I thought, nah, if I actually get up, you know, for her decently, you know, she's good to go anyway. Plus, it was heading up here at the time, at that 55. Okay, always draw on your charts and you'll see where they're going. Okay, let's see. Can you please look at the question I asked about the stop? Shibi said, had an incident today with ES when I put a stop at 5 and the broker was at 15. For some reason, the stop at 5 is not honored and it went through in a moment. You had it on exit on close, Shibi? If there's fast movement, yeah, you can definitely get zapped in these markets, especially with the speed of them. There's not a question about that. You know, to give an example, what if this would have just jumped up in a heartbeat like that? Well, your fill might not have been till way up in here. You know, there's no way around that, though, unfortunately, because markets just do what markets do. Okay, let's see. Everybody see that? One of my favorite trades is mid-band trade. Just like gold, to give an example. Look at gold here and see if you wouldn't have taken a similar trade on this. Look at gold. Okay, let's say you're not up until 5 o'clock in the morning. Well, right here is 5 o'clock in the morning. So are you going to take a trade way up here? No. So pretend this is your chart. You just got up. What do we teach about that? Are you going to take a trade right there? Not on your life, right? Now, if you did, don't let it go even a tick against you, because if it was to bip out of here and just go like a house of fire, you could get a good trade. But this is against what we teach. You want to wait for the retrace. I always draw on my charts, draw the previous support levels. If it comes down like to a mid band, you draw another one right here where it has checked that one right there. See it? It's checked it. So more than likely it'll check that one. And see, that's what they end up doing. They checked it. So you could definitely get a good trade like that. Now, keep in mind that isn't that a beautiful trade on gold right at mid-band? That's a 20 tick trade from mid-band to the top of the phantom right here. That's 24 ticks. That's a $480 trade with 2 contracts. That's a $480 trade with 2 contracts. Okay? That's a $480 trade with 2 contracts. So why would a person want to buy it here, get $480, and then come back below your cost and you're break even and you never took your trade off the table? So you always got to take some coin. Now, if you go with 1 contract, you've either got to decide, if you get to a top, if you want to go ahead and take your profit, period, or if you think it's going to go higher. Okay? Let's see, I didn't get the mid-band trade analogy until you explained that it must ratchet up or down. Well, Robert, on your question, I do still like a mid-band, even on a flat, but not when it changes the background. When the background changes, you want to look for the phantom trade. But this is still, see how this was ratcheting at the time? Stair-stepping, so that's a decent trade right there. This is a little iffy, and this is definitely iffy, but it's still a good trade if you box it in. I've got a rule of thumb, though. If I can get that trade and possibly that trade, I might not even try that one because it's not taking out those tops. But when you're in a range like this, you can definitely buy support and sell resistance. That's another one of my favorite trades, too. And remember, let me see if I can find a trade for you here. We open the room at 755. Oh, I don't even have it up there yet, so that's no problem. Okay, I'll show you the trade that Charles and I took after the room opened. How many of you just live for these mid-band trades, though? Because they will work, and especially always watch the predictors and everything. A lot of times they'll just tag the top of the predictor, and sometimes they'll come to the middle of it. That white line that's in the middle of it is a sweet spot for it to actually bounce off of. Okay, but sometimes, see, they'll just tag the top of it and go. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and look and see why a trade was called in the room at 755. Anybody see what's happening on the chart right now? Look at it hit that 55 on the money. Was anybody trading that at the time? Because it definitely just hit 55 and pulled it down. So that was 7:49 in the morning. So what are you looking for now on a trade? Anybody? What do you think about we opened the room at 7:55? Do you remember a trade call that was made in the room this morning? We were talking about 78. See how this made a lightning 3 swing right here? Now, do they always come down to mid-band? Well, if you have a high, a low, and a higher high, if they break this, then they're not really heading up on this left side of the chart unless they just wick it and bounce off a mid-band. Everybody see that? Let me show you what I'm talking about. Let me draw a lightning 3. See if I can draw it from here. See how lightning 3 is right there? So you kind of expect that to hold, don't you? And this trade was called in the room. And if you took that trade, put your stop just around mid-band until it actually starts kicking up there a little bit. That turned out to be a very decent trade. Did you get that one, Chuck, this morning? Yeah, this was called live in the room this morning. We nailed this trade. And you remember where I had the taking it off the table was 15, remember? We actually had it set at 15. I think it went a little higher than that, but not much. How did we know it was going to 15? Anybody? This is another one that you want to really train your eye to see, because what they do lots and lots of times is they'll give you these nice thrusts and retrace, nice thrust and retrace. So if you draw them, you'll find where they're going just by simply drawing on your charts. See, like that one was pretty much trying to head to about 15 to 18, right in that area. It never made it. So when this happened right here and it didn't make it, you can pretty much count on it getting there, you know, when they hold higher lows like this, to give an example. Okay, now let me ask a quick question on this. If you missed this trade entirely, where would you look for another trade? And train yourself to see what actually happens in real time, okay? Because let me show you something here. And this again goes to these three favorite types of trades. Mid bands. Remember that trade? That was a beauty, by the way. And remember where we put our stop on that? Just under line 6. And it turns out that it took us out. I put it 3 ticks under line 6, remember? And that turned out to be a really good trade, but it did stop us out. Now, some of our people actually went short when this box was broken right here. That's a pretty gutsy trade, by the way. But if you did, you know, if you happen to short where it breaks a support line like that, then put your stop pretty tight, just in case it's not through going up, which it could have been. You know, you'd want a good tight stop on it. Okay, turned out that that was actually a decent short trade. But remember, I didn't call a short on that. I said we were looking for a phantom trade, remember? Now, what kind of background is this right here? Anybody? That's that background that we look for phantom trades. Okay, we're not looking for any other type of background on a long trade for a phantom than this right here. Okay, so could you have actually done what was called in the room, put a region on your chart, put it at line 1, put it on the inside touch, plus like 2, and if it comes above this, you get 1. If it does 2, if it doesn't do 2, and it comes down instead inside the bottom of the box, you would get the fill there. You could even turn this off if you felt you only wanted a line 1 trade. Okay, because line 1 is a good trade on phantoms to me. I love line 1 trades. Because look at to the left. See right here? That's what they're trying to check, that support level right there. And so what they did is they actually came down to a line 1 type trade and bounced, and all you had to do is box it in. Now this is my go-to trade right here. I love this particular trade. They can be trend changes, but to be a trend change, it would have to take out this support right here. Okay? And see, right now, we don't have support taken out. We've actually got a good phantom trade. And if it gets within 2 ticks of it, like that, it would fire the trade. You put your stop under line 0. You move your target to swing levels. And you could even add one if you wanted to, if it came out of the top of the box. Like that. And try to get that top. Something like that if you wanted to. See, because our tools will do that trade real easily. Okay, where would you put your stop on this one? Anybody? Well, how about power meter? If it goes red, just sell them. Like that. See there? It just went red, so sell it. You know, well, I didn't sell all of them, did I? Sell them all. Okay, everybody see that? How you can do that? Now, this trade was called in real time this morning, too, and some of our people got this trade, and it turned out to be a very, very nice trade. Okay, now looking to the left to trade the right. Does anybody see like a predictor? You got a swing level right over here to the left. You think they might test it? What if they tested it and decided to break up right from that swing there? That happens a lot. And that's exactly what they did this morning. You had two chances to get in that trade with Phantom. It actually bounced off of support, gave a nice trade, and then off it went. And us as traders, we put one of our targets at the top swing right here. We put another one right there, or ride your runner like that and just get it out of the way. Okay, so that's two of my favorite trades. First time into mid-band after a trend change is, it doesn't usually go to Phantom the first time. It usually goes to Phantom the second to the third time. Okay, the first time when you get a trend change, you're looking for mid-band trades. Okay, and from what we've understood on this, they're about 85% probability. It almost got us, didn't it? Line 2 is where we would put our stop, close of the bar. Okay, so this trade was called this morning in the room. This trade was called this morning in the room. And this one was even called if somebody missed the Phantom. So, you know, just in a normal morning, when that room is opened on oil, don't get slapped around by these equities. You know, I mean, if you want to do equities, what you got to do is you got to let them just do their thrust, get everybody else frustrated, and then wait for those nice mid-band trades. Because that's what Charles does every morning, and that's what I do if I trade equities at all. There's some mornings that I don't trade equities. If they're bouncing around and I'm already up nicely, you don't need to trade them. Okay? And if you do this type of trading, and I know there's quite a few people in here, even from our invite, we invited quite a few on a list tonight. But I want to show you something here that if you'll just simply teach yourself to do this type of trading, this is what you will get. Remember this that I showed on Saturday? Remember it was at 29 something, 29.36. Well, today it's at 34.33. Notice that she's within 1,400 or so of hitting her full 5,000, and then Top Step will turn that into a true $5,000. See, she started on what's called the Pro account in Top Step. You don't even have to pay data fees until you get to the $5,000. And once she gets to that, they roll that into an actual live account, and it's real money. And as far as I'm concerned, it's real money now, because obviously it will be real money. So that's all that matters, right? Because their Pro account that they have is a very, very good account that lets you trade like you're in sim when you first get funded, because see, you had already been through 2 evaluations. So, you know, she had already hit 18,000 between the 2 of them. Okay, so that's the graph. Isn't that a beautiful graph? Plots. And then if you do this type of trading, let me show you another screen. Bear with me a second. I got to kill Top Step and go back into my son's, and we'll get his in just a second. And let's see here. I think I've got his here. Where's his at? Bear with me just one second. Let's see where step 2. Oh, okay, here it is. Here it is. Just one second. Let me flip it over. See now, this is his actual step 2. Okay, this is my son's right here. I got all his logins and everything because he knows I'm a good guy and I won't do anything to him. But anyway, here's August 27th. See, he's on $50,000 step 2. He's got 0 days complete now because it just started on step 2. but he got his to $3,009 today for his first step. So now he's on the second step. So by being on the second step, all he's got to do is hit this amount, and he's got to trade a minimum of 10 days to do it, which should be pretty easy to do because the way we teach, I teach them the same way. Okay? Now, when I show this type of thing, again, it's not to brag about trading or anything like that. It's to show people that we know what we're doing. Okay? It's real important to realize that you got to know what you're doing when you're trading. Okay? Now, could you actually take a break of support? Remember, we talked about this in the room this morning on oil when it broke 84. 93, some of our people got it. We missed it just now because we weren't watching it. But 93 was where it was actually, that's resistance right there. Okay? But when it broke this, could you take a trade like that? Absolutely. So let's see. Seems like oil always retraces deeper after the open than early morning. It does sometimes, Robert. It absolutely does. The one thing you got to realize on crude oil is just like any of the others, they can change directions. Because see, crude oil actually changed directions right after we opened the room. This trade right here that I called was a good 30 ticks. This trade was even good for 20. But after that, they broke support, and some of our people shorted about 93. And it turned out to be a good short. But what if you missed this trade entirely? Let's just say you're not in it. All right, it's obviously breaking down now, right? Okay, just the way we teach. What do we expect them to do? Anybody? Well, let's look at it and see, because this needs to be your go-to trade. All right, looking at Lightning 3, it broke it. Looking at Lightning 3, it broke it. Looking at Lightning 3, it broke it. So where hasn't it checked yet? Anybody? When they break down that quickly, you got to start drawing lines on your charts. They haven't checked here. They haven't checked here. And they even haven't checked here yet. And they haven't even checked here. So you got 4 lines on that chart that you could very easily get you into a nice trade. Now, I've found when they break down quickly like this, that they'll go up and check right where they broke down. Now, but what you can do, you could be ready to take this trade if they give a rollover. Where would you box this in right now? Anybody? Is this a long trade, by the way? Is this a long trade? Or could it be setup of a phantom because it's never checked that swing right there? Could you be ready to take that trade if it did go into that phantom right there? Because we called this trade this morning in the room too. And again, this is one of my favorite trades right here. This is called a phantom trade. You just simply box it in. There's resistance right there, like so. Let me get that out of the way. Like so. And I would probably put nothing here, short inside here, and touch plus about 2. And if it kissed that line and rolled, you would be in that trade. Okay? You could also bring your box down a little bit just in case it breaks here, because this is a box right here too. So then you could turn on the bottom of the box. Everybody see that? So it would either fire if it breaks the box here, or it would fire if it kisses resistance. Okay? And if you watched this trade this morning, this actually turned into actually being a very, I think I forgot, there we go, we did get it. Unfortunately, we didn't get the one I wanted, but we did get it. That's because I sped it up to like 300. We should have gotten that one, but I think it missed it by 3 ticks, actually. It looks like it. Now, in real time, this didn't move this fast, so you could have easily boxed it in again when it got up there to that phantom and gotten it about right through there. Okay, because that would be your box also. Now, if you're up this much and you get in a trade like this and you accidentally messed up, just put your stop right above it. If it's going to break up, it'll break up. But what if it doesn't break up and it just decides to do a lower high and then head down some, like that. That's what happens. Okay? So everybody see two of my favorite trades? Absolutely. Phantom trades, mid-band trades, if they box in and they roll. This one didn't box in and roll, did it? You know, if you looked at this trade, let me get Lightning 3 off. Let's study this. Bear with me a second. Okay, let's do Lightning 1. Notice how, if you would have boxed this, there's your looking to the left to trade the right, even see it over here to the left. And usually what I do is look for support, see where support is right here. And that way you don't get wicked into a trade and see that never actually did it. Then you readjust your box, and then it went up higher, so you bring your box up to phantom and you got you a trade. Everybody see that? And that turned out to be a pretty nice trade, by the way, on that phantom trade. Again, that's one of my favorite trades in trading. And by the way, you could put your stop just above the swing, just in case. Okay? Now, where hasn't not checked yet? Let's look to the left to trade the right. We checked close to 99 right there, but we definitely checked 93, didn't we? It took it out a little bit and rolled. So leave your line there. And it checked there and rolled. You can clearly see where it rolled right there. And it hasn't checked here as of yet because it hadn't broken down and checked it. It checked a little above it. So let's get rid of this line. We don't need it. Everybody see how I'm doing that on the chart, drawing the lines on the left? And if they don't take out this low, then you can tighten your stop, because if they don't take out this low, they're not going to respect this high, or they're going to give you a lower high, but they'll probably take out this high to get there. Okay? Watch and see what happened. If they don't take this out right here, you can pretty much count on them taking you out fairly quickly. I usually end up watching it, and if it busts above, like it's trying to, a little higher low, I'd be out. See it? Okay? But you could look for another trade on here. Keep in mind there's other trades on here. So what's my favorite trade on here? Only the phantom type trade. I don't like a mid-band trade in this color background. So if this gave us one more phantom like that, for instance, see where it just kissed that resistance level? Now I got that late because we've got it again going too fast. But notice how that kissed phantom again. And what did it really do? It kissed a Lightning 3. Pretty cool, isn't it? All right, so now I've taught this for 48 minutes. Let's slow this chart down, and I want y'all to pick the next trade on this chart. Okay? Now, if you're not in a trade, what would you wait on? Anybody? Well, you missed 2 phantom trades, so what do you got to wait for? You got to wait for a thrust and a pullback. So if it breaks, comes back and kisses, we'd be looking for a trade. Like that, or even right in here. But it's got to break. You can't just take these willy-nilly. Now, could you take this break here? Yes. Like say so if they happen to break support right there. All right, if they break it, you could put a stop just above the swing, and you might be okay. All right, but that's more of a breakout type trade than a retrace trade. Okay, because your trade was way up here. You want to be careful getting in these trades when they just barely take out support, like I just did that one. Now it turns out that one worked. But watch what works even better. What's happening with the mid-band? Stair stepping. So what kind of trade are you looking for? Anybody? What kind of trade do we teach? Let's draw lines on the chart and see if we can nail it. We got a mid-band right there. We got a resistance level right there and there. See them? So wouldn't you think more than likely it's going to come back and kiss that? And watch and see if predictor doesn't even tell you where it's at. Here's a mid-band again. It's actually going a little lower. Draw your lines on your chart. You got resistance right there. Got resistance right here. Does anybody remember this little trade in the room this morning? We actually nailed that trade right there. How did we do that? By just simply looking to the left to trade the right, and we got that trade. And that was called, by the way, in the room, live in the room this morning. Now, I didn't personally take it, but it was called. And keep in mind that when you get up nicely for the day, you don't have to take any trade. You don't have to take any trade anytime you don't want to, period. But, you know, if we call a trade area that looks to be a good area to take, and if I say that I'm not taking it, that doesn't mean it's not going to be a good trade. That just means that by our rule of thumb, we're not greedy, and we just believe in getting nicely green and turning off the machine, truthfully. I mean, that's the way to trade. Because to give an example, Linda today was up $500. You know, she's got a target of around 3. So if she can get above 3, wouldn't you think just hit the trigger and you're done? That looks like that's going to stop out. See there? Took out the swing. Where will it check this time? Let's see. Got a swing right there, got a swing right there, got a swing right here. Like so. And we'll see what it does. Draw a trend line on it. What do you think? Let's go for it. See there where it just kind of came out of that box like that? And we'll put our stop just above that swing because we're up pretty nicely. I don't worry about trades with 2 contracts if I'm up really nicely, but you don't want to do like 5 contracts and let it go, you know, 10 ticks against you or something like that. And I would probably redraw this trend line again, like so. And if it breaks it again, I'd add one. Like that. And then I would definitely put my stop right there. Everybody see that? That gets you some really nice trades. If you'll train your mind to see these trades right here, and train your mind to also realize that if they're, you know, they get this background, you don't want to take these mid-band trades, they'll fake you out. Take the phantom trade. Take the phantom trade. This wasn't quite a phantom, but this definitely was. And this was even in the room. As a matter of fact, remember in the room, I even mentioned that was phantom and it flashed red on the bars. See it? Right there. Now, let's go through the anatomy of how to take that trade, though. If you didn't want to box it. Thrust, retrace. Can anybody see you could draw a trend line on this chart ahead of time? See there? And you get you a nice trade. Because even if you box it, they're going to test it. They always do. See how they busted down below? They tested it, come down a little bit, tested it again, then they broke down. They do that stuff continually. Okay? So, anybody want to see if they can figure out the next trade? Let's see if anybody can figure out the next trade. We ratcheted down, so what do you think? A yellow bar probe? Mid-band? What do you think? Got to make the decision. Let's slow it down a little bit. And let's diagnose our chart. We got resistance there. We've got resistance. Let's look to the left. Got resistance right here too. Like so. I always like to look at mid-band to see where the deal is. If they go above mid-band, a lot of times that's too high. But we did diagnose our chart correctly. And this is a little sweet spot that I'd be looking for. Predictor's pretty much saying you're going to get a trade. More than likely, it broke down, kissed. Broke down and kissed, I would say right through here. Like so. Because see, it already checked this. See where it broke down and kissed it. Broke down, kissed that. So, no higher than this right here. That would be my guess on it. You have a low, a high, a lower low. A lot of times they'll barely take out the high. Let's see if they do. Predictor's saying mid-band's right here. Bring it down a little bit. There's resistance on the left, 54.30. Y'all want to see if it'll come to it? So we got the trade diagnosed, so let's see if we can get it. There's 32 right there at mid-band. Everybody see how easy that was to diagnose that in real time? Drew a box and everything, just the way the trade was supposed to do. Now, what if it would have just busted up instead? Well, you put a pretty tight stop. Okay. And that one got taken out. Now, what trade is setting up right now? What color will the background change? It didn't change, so we didn't get a phantom trade. You did get a rollover trade, but we did not get a phantom trade. Now, if you were to take that trade, could you have actually shorted it when it took out this trend line? Yeah. So again, favorite mid-band type trades and phantom trades, and then trend line trades. Those are absolutely some of my favorite trades, because you'll find out that if you do a couple of contracts on a trade like this, for instance, there's a phantom trade, by the way, see it? That actually did a phantom. Let's go ahead and take it just for the fun of it. We'll put our stop just above line 6, exit on close. Let's see, we got resistance right there, so I'll put it just a tad above the resistance. That way if it kisses it and rolls, we'll be good. We're going to risk 13 for now. Now, if it breaks this support, we'll risk less than that. This is a true phantom trade. That was a good rollover type trade if you wanted it. But this is a sweet one that you look for right here with that background. Let's see if it worked. If this is the first one takes us out, so what? It's going to kiss resistance. Nope. Now, if it'll break this, we'll go ahead and tighten the stop. Good enough. You're only risking 8. You could take a scalp here, and if it comes down to like right in this area right here. All right. Lower that stop. Now you're only risking 3. And I would probably take one off simply because, we already got one off on our target. But anyway, I took one more off. So we're good to go on that trade. See there? And the thing is, when you're trading, the whole idea is to get your P&Ls good. You don't have to get this, obviously. I didn't get this today. I don't care about that figure right there. What I care about is that Linda's made money, mine made money, and Randy's made money. And he'll be funded here probably in, well, he'll get those 10 days, I'm sure. Just got to kind of get him to where he gets up, instead of working out at 5 a.m., that he trades for a few minutes and then does his workout. Because you can usually, on a lot of days, get a decent trade within about 30 minutes, usually. Anybody have any questions on favorite trades? These are some good ones. If you watch your charts for these particular trades, you're going to find out over and over and over that they will pay out. And they'll pay out, pretty handsomely. So what's happening on this chart right now? Well, it's getting a high, a low, lower high, lower low, lower high. So this is actually still heading down. See it? Everybody see that? So if you missed this trade entirely, what would you look for in your next trade? Anybody? Well, let's watch and see. We've got a flatline midband so far. There you go. There's stair-stepping. It's a stair-stepping. Probably if it kissed this resistance right here, I'd probably short it, and I already did. But let's see if we can get a mid-band trade out of it, just for the fun of it. Let's see if we can get one. There's a thrust. Where's our trade at? Anybody? look to the left, trade the right, sweet spot for a resistance kiss and rollover. Let's see if it does. Bingo. See how beautiful those trades are? Diagnosed ahead of time just by simply looking to the left to trade the right. You had another resistance level right here, and see what it actually did. You can always look to the left to see them. See those two right there? And then you just simply box them in and roll them. So if you took this trade, this trade, this trade, this trade, this trade, this trade that was called in the room at 8:02, this trade that was called in the room, this trade that was called in the room, how green would you be for the morning? And these trades were diagnosed in real time. Now, granted, right now we're on market replay, but this trade was called. This trade was boxed in if you wanted it. That trade was called. That trade you could easily have boxed in. We were even talking about it as the room was closing. And after the room closed, you could have even gotten that trade right there. And it didn't go except to your line and then bounced a little bit. And you're starting to go a little bit more sideways, but phantom trade, breaks down, mid-band trade. They're beautiful. And they happen all day long. So make that a go-to trade and make that a go-to trade. And if you have any troubles with phantoms at all, don't trade them. You know, because you got to be a little gutsy to trade phantoms because sometimes they can be trend changes. But as a rule, they're not. Yeah, there you go. Got 467 for the day and took phantom trade that was called this morning in the room. You know, could you have shorted when the room was open right off the bat? You know, this was our 8 o'clock box. Can anybody see that you have a high, a low? If you get a lower high, that would be a lightning being broken, but not a lightning 3. But could you see that you could actually short that if it broke it, if you got a lower high? Now, if you got a same high, be careful with it. But if you got a high, a low, and a lower high, usually, as a rule, you can short that. Just be careful with them. But I'm talking about opening trades, because that opening trade can turn out to be pretty good. Some of our people got that trade, and our people got that trade. Okay? And these will do this every day for you. Okay? Every single day you can look for my favorite 3 trade type setups, and that's your phantoms, your mid bands, your trend line trades. And I'd add one more. We'll just call it 3+1, the KISS trades, because KISS trades flat work out. You know, for instance, if this would have decided to go up instead of down, what would it have done? Well, it would have broken resistance, come back and kissed it, and taken off. It didn't do that, right? So what does it do instead? Well, you can pretty much draw on your charts and see that they'll come in these areas, really close to resistance areas, and they'll roll over. And mid-bands are really good at nailing these trades. All right. You like the little box under the support break, but sometimes are a little nervous to take it. Well, the one thing about taking a trade, and just like I mentioned, and we're going to go ahead and wrap in just a second, is that if you're nicely green already on some trades, I'm not as apprehensive about, you know, anything, because, you know, I could give up $200 and not even think about it if I was up like this. Now, when you're only up like 500 for the morning, you know, like Linda was, she quit trading way back here. She actually quit trading on this trade right here. Remember? Because she was in down here at 55 and she took it off at 05. Remember, it was 50 ticks. And that was cataloged. I showed that in the room this morning. That was a catalog trade. And was she happy with her day? Absolutely. Because 500 a day, just think about it. That's 2,500 a week. That's over 125K a year for an account that will just be used for fun. We don't need the income. Okay? So, everybody start taking these trades. We'll call them in the room every time. Now, will every single one of them work out? No, but if you bank on getting the actual true phantoms and the true mid bands, especially if it's ratcheting, they'll work out more often than not. And that's the key to it. You got to get around 80% or more on your trading, and then don't let those losers bite you very hard. Just like I showed on my one-up account that I did that time, my losers were not negative 163 and my winners were 549. So, you want to keep the losers small. All right. Thanks everybody for coming. Hope you enjoyed it. And we'll trade like this in the morning. And like every day, we'll do it again. Okay. All right. Thanks everybody for coming. Hope you enjoyed it. And let's see, Kevin, Ninjas crashed due to an Agile.net. Agile.net. I'm not sure what that is. Yeah, I'll give you a shout. Go ahead and get a team viewer, Kevin, at ViperTradingSystems.com at the contact link. And let me write down your number here real quick. Linda's got it, but it'll be easier for me to write it down real quick. All right, I'll give you a call here in just 1 minute. Thanks everybody for coming, and I'll get this posted. Good night.